to Into Nostalgia. I'm your host, Jacob Rush, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Ryan Black, and we are back, and we're playing with Power. Good morning, Ryan. How are you today?
I am good. I am sleepy because I have been having insomnia issues, but other than that, I'm great.
Yeah, I'm sleepy because we're up at like 6 a.m. recording this pod on a Sunday because we missed yesterday, but we want to get the episodes out for you guys, so here we are. But Ryan's got to get to work too, so let's not waste any time and get right into what we've been radical rexing about. Well, Ryan, why don't you start us off, my friend? What's new on your plate?
Yeah, pretty much Balatro has taken up all of my time for everything. Yeah, it's...
What's Balatro? I honestly, you've been texting about it, and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
It's it's weird to talk about. Like, it doesn't sound very fun. Or maybe, I don't know. It's like poker, but it's a roguelike game. You could probably consider it a roguelite game. I know some people would consider it that, but because you unlock jokers that do add to your deck or your pool of things you can do and purchase. But so it's you're playing kind of like games of poker, but then you're like getting these special jokers that give you special abilities that help you get like multipliers and combos and stuff. And it's a really, really addictive gameplay loop. It's fun, but like one more run. Oh yeah, and I didn't do this thing, or I did this wrong. If I just go through it one more time, maybe I'll get the build that I'm looking for, and that's really satisfying when everything clicks and you get like really high scores and try to get the best score. So it's one of those types of games. And then I also one of our fans on the Nintendo Nostalgia chat was selling their copy of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and they finished up the game. They 100%ed it, and so I messaged them like, "Hey, I'm interested in getting that." And so we met up in person. They happened to be in Indianapolis, and so we met up at local Kroger where I was picking up medication and stuff, and we did the game exchange. I had some trouble getting the money stuff figured out because someone used my card, and so they canceled my card. So then I didn't have a card to pay, and then I tried all my pay apps, and like apparently someone's been trying to get into my pay apps because I got locked out of them, and like too many attempts to log in with my PIN and stuff like that. Like okay, well, I guess I will just I messaged my housemate, and he came and sent the payment, and I sent him payment externally from my bank. But yeah, so it was kind of crazy getting all that together. But I finally got a hold of Echoes of Wisdom, and I have not played it yet, but I will be soon. But I also have Emio, the Smiling Man, to play for Spooky Month. And then I also have I picked up the new Picross game that's Rising of the Shield Hero themed. It's an anime that I really, really enjoy, actually. An anime that I really, really enjoy, and the fact that they just randomly like partnered with the Picross people to do that, I'm like, sweet, I have to get this game. So I've got a lot of games to play. Just need to break my concentration from Balatro, pretty much.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah, it does sound like you got a lot on your plate, man. Well, for me, I gotta say, really, not much has changed since the last time we talked. It's been busy, it's this birthday season for me. I got Charlotte, my daughter, her birthday was on Friday, so we had a birthday party for her with some friends last weekend, and then we had her actual little birthday with us and all the kids, Mom and I and the kids, on Friday, and then today, families coming over, like grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and stuff like that. So it's been just planning for this. So I've been busy with cleaning and helping mom get ready for the parties, and that's about it. I mean, I get my workouts in still, so I guess that's a plus. I did chaperone a high school dance yesterday,
Cool.
homecoming, and it quickly reminded me why I did not go to my own school dances. It's been a long time since I've been in that environment. Because I could tell you, I felt exactly the same way as if I would have been an actual student there, just shy and out of my element and not wanting to be diving into the middle of the crowd, I guess. Um, Especially, I mean, as a teacher, it's different because I know a lot of the students and a lot of them
Mhm.
like me and I like them. So I could actually see me enjoying it a bit more since it's like, but when you're the student and you know all your classmates and you're not friends with the
Yeah.
majority of those classmates, it just doesn't sound very fun to me to jump in a crowd and start dancing with them. So, but besides that, just try to get my weight down. I don't know. That's kind of my top priority. Oh, okay. I will say this: since it was homecoming week, we had Spirit Day, and Tuesday was Rockstar versus Pop Star versus Rapper themed, and I threw on my old Link Pages gear, like stuff I'd wear on stage. Did my hair exactly the same. I mean, I'm literally the same old clothes, same old shoes that I would wear when we toured, and
Yeah.
um, unfortunately, some of those clothes were a little tighter on me today than they were back then. But I'm working on that. But I did that, and I brought my guitar in, and I had it like just strapped on all day and walked around with it, and it got me really nostalgic for like my band, my old band days, and um, it got me coming home and jamming on my through the computer again. So it's kind of a little spark in me to maybe get back into writing music again soon. Um, so I was able to come home that day and I just plugged in and I just rocked
Yeah.
out to a bunch of Blink songs, and that was fun. But now I'm like have an itch to. I really want an amp, like a good amp, because the amp I have is just my garbage old little starter amp that I got way back in the day. It's not my first act. It was my second one. I replaced the first act with this tiny
First
little
act.
Fender one, which was
Oh, okay.
still
Okay.
sucks. I mean, it's better than the first act. First act is just trash, straight up plug into the trash
Yeah.
can. This is like the trash that you threw into the trash can kind of amp. So it sucks. I don't like to play on it. I mean, it literally hurts my ears. So I don't know. Like I've been wanting to buy a new amp now. Now, like, but they're so expensive to get a quality one, and I'm just like, it's hard to justify buying it when I know I'm not going to
Mhm.
be doing anything with this amp outside of playing with it in my house. At least right now, like I'm not playing shows regularly and really see no need to play shows.
Mhm.
Even if I start writing
Yeah.
music, unless someone like loves my stuff and wants to like sign me to some huge record label, I don't really need an amp, honestly. But doesn't delete the desire to want to have an amp. So I don't know. I haven't gone back
Mhm.
more than that, but I do want to get back. It's been so long since I wrote music, and I've been listening to just a lot of punk rock again lately, and like been getting inspired. I want to really write music between that and gaming. Like I have always had this dream of a fusion of like pop punk music with orchestra music and video game music. I want to like fuse it all together. It's always kind of been like a sound I wanted to develop and create on my own. Um, so I don't know. We'll see. Again, I had that. I got to have that day, and then ever since then, it's been Kid Central, and I have had no time to touch my guitar, which again reminds me why. Well, this is why I don't write music. This is why I sold my amp. This is why I stopped being in a band so I could have this life of craziness. So I don't know, but it's been fun. It's been fun to pick up the old guitar,
Yeah.
and everything's just so expensive. I want to buy. I needed it. I have always needed a bass guitar, and there's all Blink's been advertising. I keep partnering with Fender, so like Tom has like all of his own custom guitars that he has, and and I'm like, gosh, I want one of those so bad. And Mark's doing the same, and they're both like
Mhm.
$1,200 a piece, and I'm just like,
Mhm.
gosh, I can't. Again, it's like I can't justify buying a guitar. One, I already have a guitar. I would love the Tom DeLonge guitar just because I want an extra guitar and it's Tom's, so it's just really selfish of me on that end. And then, but the Mark one makes more sense because I could use a bass guitar to write and record with. But I'm a guitar player first and foremost, so the Tom ones definitely always look more enticing. But what else? I had one more thing. Oh, I lost it. No. Oh, and then of course Relient K has to come out and advertise their. Matt Hoops has his own pedal company, guitar pedal company, and I don't usually get a ton of pedals, but of course they have to come out this past week or two and advertise their 20th anniversary. Like, it's a themed guitar pedal, and apparently he made it to be it sound exactly the same as the distortion for that album. And I'm like, and there's only like 200 available, and I'm like, no, there's 300 available. And it's like $200.
Oh, wow.
Bruh. Yeah, I don't know. It just sucks. Everything. I hate
Maybe that's a birthday
everything
present.
like, why can't it just be like worth $80? I'd drop $80 right away and order your pedal. Why does it have to be $200? And it was also signed by him and Matt Thiessen. So Matt Hoops and Matt Thiessen.
Nice.
So again, I've had my temptations and I never pull the trigger just because I can't justify.
Yeah.
The purchases, unfortunately. But so that's kind of what I've been Radical Rexing about. Feeling like a rock star this week. Maybe next week I'll be over it and I'll just feel like an old man again. So, but gaming wise, I've been playing Astrobot still. Well, even that really, it's been such a crazy week. I only played it a little bit. Maybe I can play it again today before the party with Mom. Who knows? We'll see. That's it, gaming wise. Yeah, still wondering where that Nintendo news is, man. It is like just silence. Besides them advertising the games coming out, it's kind of annoying to me, honestly. Like, Nintendo, you need to talk. You need to talk. Like, you need to say something.
Have they announced their holiday bundles and stuff?
Yeah, they announced that like a week
ago.
Okay,
so
they tweeted it out or extra early.
Probably just like, gathering everything up and getting ready to send out a big blast of new Switch 2 stuff,
I mean, I hope, but I don't know. They're talking about Brotherhood now or Brothership, whatever, and I think that's the last game scheduled for this year, right? Brothership?
I want to say that's like the last official one. I want to say that there was like a little one, like mostly not anything first party, but there's a couple other ones that, like, I think they've went heavy in on advertising, not heavy necessarily, but like Square Enix has their Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake or whatever that's coming, and there's a couple of games coming out in November that they're advertising, but that's about it, really.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we'll see. I mean, news could drop tomorrow of some kind of announcement. It's just silence, and I'm ready for some news that's non-political. I'm ready for some fun video game announcements that I can really eat up and enjoy.
Yeah.
So, well, besides that, my friend, it's time to get into the topic. This week, Ryan and I have themed the topic out as... Since we all have been jamming on the Switch for 7 years, we decided it would be fun. It's the month of October, which is our spooky month. So to make it, this one's not necessarily spooky, but it's definitely a darker theme. We wanted to talk about our top 3 favorite Nintendo Switch villains. obviously the theme of this is villains. And Ryan and I decided like we're not limiting to this as just like first party villains only. Like this can be second party, this could be a third party, this could be an indie game. Our choices, because the Switch is just such a vast library. I honestly think it'd be foolish to just say, "Oh, it has to only be Nintendo first party or second party." I think that's silly. Because I'll be honest, as I was thinking and brainstorming about my list, some of the greatest games I have with the Switch are not Nintendo directly made. Believe it or not, I've experienced so many good games. I've had so many games that I own and play, and don't get me wrong, the first party Switch games are great. And I do have some from that, but overall, I have to say I've had so many fun experiences with indie games and third party games, because this is the first time in decades where Nintendo's been on top of having so much support from other companies. It's pretty wild, to be honest. So, but I don't know who wants to go first, you or me.
Okay, man. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Alrighty, kick us off. Well, my first pick of the day will be this little guy named Flowey from Undertale. This game called Undertale. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, that's a fun little RPG-ish game.
Yes. I love this character because he's so. When I was thinking through villains, I'm trying to think about the villains that I just really had an impact, and this character is. I don't know. Maybe he should be last on my list. I don't know. I didn't really think about the order, but he is, a very scary and very empathetic. You actually feel for him too. Without spoiling the game, I mean, he's such a complex character, and his motives really. When you play the game right, if you play the game just like, however, and you're not caring about doing like a pacifist run, he comes across as a very insane and very very hateful character. Um, I like Flowey because when you do the pacifist route, the whole way to actually like beat him is to break him down, not physically and kill him, but you actually break his soul down, as in like you break his spirits, you break through to the root, no pun intended, to the root issue of what's wrong with Flowey. And you know what? Talking about politics here or there in our real world situations, the one thing that I've learned over the last 7 years is that I can't stand out of people. I can't stand how people have to paint a picture of somebody because they act or feel different towards one belief or the other, and then those people hate each other, and they have to make a villain out of each other. And Flowey kind of reminds me of this, because Flowey, on the surface, he does do terrible things. I mean, he is got a hateful heart. He's mean, and at the end of the game, to beat him, it's about letting all that go, figuring out why Flowey is the way he is, and then loving him through that, to love him back. And which, I guess, Flowey is also Ariel. Spoiler. So he's really two characters in one. But I just love how the game goes about having to break him down, and it just reveals more and more of his character and his motives. Because I don't believe anybody's a monster. I don't believe just because you believe one thing, you're a terrible person. That doesn't mean you can't get along, or be civil with each other. And I think that character in Flowey kind of represents that, like the way they have to handle him and go about it. Because once you get past all of his hate and his anger that he's throwing at you, I mean, he literally just breaks down and he just needs a hug and he cries, you know, and because he's gone through so much crap in his life that brought him to that point. And I just think he's just a deep character. And I really love that. And he's funny and he's psychotic a little bit. And I love my favorite characters are the ones who are crazy and they don't have it. I mean, he does have a motive, I guess, but I love the Joker type characters, the Majin, the Kid Buu characters. Like they're just insane with power and they just want to watch things burn. I think those types of villains are the most scariest in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they'll do whatever. They have no motive. They will, you know, I mean, the Joker and the Batman, he blew up a freaking hospital because he's the Joker, you know, and whatever, and he's fine, and he moves on about his day like nothing happens. Go get some lunch, you know, and it's just where villains like Thanos, you know, from Marvel, he's like deep and he's trying to think and he's got morals and reason, which again can make its own interesting character, own villain, but like, ooh, there's just something about those ones who are just insane. Because you justly want to stop those villains, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's there's the villains like Thanos. I mean, they even have the whole controversial stuff where people in the Marvel universe like saying Thanos was right, and even people talk about like, you know, what he was actually trying to do. In reality, although it's wrong, was he right in what he was trying to accomplish? Just going about it the wrong way,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
Whereas insane villains, they don't have a motive, so it's easier to want to take them down, and but it's extremely hard to take them down. So,
oh yeah.
Well, that's my first pick.
Yeah, I like your first pick. It kind of feeds into my first pick. So I recently got the chance to play Final Fantasy VI, and the villain of Final Fantasy VI is very much a flowery type villain. Like, but there is no redeemable. Like, he does not need a hug. He needs to just be defeated. Like, he's such a bad guy. So he's a jester clown like guy. It's kind of his theme. He's like a court jester, and he's like going around. He's the lackey. He's that guy that goes around and does the dirty work of the evil emperor. And but really, he's kind of pulling the shots and the strings. You know, and he's just like mad with power, and he just wants to see people suffer, and he'll kill an entire town by poisoning the water because it takes time to just send armies in. Why waste your armies when you could just, you know, murder everybody, children, women, children, everyone. And
wow,
he's just a really, really bad guy. But you know, you really want to hate this guy, and the thing that's crazy is like in this story, like the villain wins. Like he literally accomplishes what he sets out to do, and completely, you know, ruins everything and sits on top of the ruins of everything afterwards. It's similar to kind of Ganondorf, you know, at an Ocarina of Time, how like you go to the future and he's like in his citadel, like, you know, flying, you know, floating in the sky or whatever, and you have to go take him down. Yeah. Like he wins. Like, it's the dark timeline, you know. So it's really cool to see that that represented. But the guy is just psycho, like completely psycho. Like Kefka is just he's a bad dude. Like, there's no redeemable qualities in him at all. Like, the whole time, like, he feigns, like, oh, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, you know. And, like, he's just, like, he's very much a Joker type character. But, man, he is such a bad guy. So, that's my first pick, yeah.
Did they remake that game for Switch? Like, not, like, remake
the Pixel Remaster
like,
is the only thing that they have right now.
Is it updated or like it's not like? I don't know, as grinding as like an older
Yeah,
RPG
I
would
mean,
be.
you'll still run into encounters quite a bit, but you're given items to help, like, to not have encounters. But then also you can speed up battles. You can get like better, you can speed up your XP gain and things like that. So there are accessibility things that make the game a lot more like accessible to JRPG fan or people who don't like JRPGs and grinding and stuff like that. So I didn't personally use them, but they exist, and so quality of life.
I may want to try the game. So it sounds, with our RPG sessions right now, it sounds like a fun game.
Final Fantasy VI is really good. It was Final Fantasy III originally when it came out in the States.
Okay.
On Super.
That was Game Boy Advance.
Super
era, right?
Nintendo.
Super Nintendo. Why am I thinking Advanced?
I think they did a version release on Advanced.
A re-release. This is the one that's like really popular in the beginning, like from the Super Nintendo, right? Like
yeah. It's everybody talks about like the opera house scene and everything. Like,
could be like considered one of the best in Final Fantasy.
Yeah. It's up there with Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people are up against like, oh yeah, 7 maybe did 3D, but like the pinnacle of Final Fantasy like story and JRPG and pixel art and everything was Final Fantasy VI, and yeah.
I remember this. It starts off with like a military, right? Like in the army and stuff.
Your three. It's kind of like a steampunk like universe world, and it starts out with 3 people. I think it's Biggs and Wedge, and then the main character Terra are in these mech robots walking in a snowy area.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on the SNES Classic.
Yep.
But I remember testing it out, but I never like actually played.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of the characters are really likable in the game. Some of the characters that I thought I wouldn't like, I ended up, finding very endearing. And so like that was really cool to experience that in an RPG that's a 2D RPG, because I'm not big on 2D RPGs, but I'm getting there. I'm getting around to it. So yeah, that's my first pick. Kefka.
All right. Brings me to my second pick. And it's just kind of funny. They're kind of feeding into each other here. My first kind of fed into yours. So I'm going to, my second pick is going to be Jevil from Deltarune, which is it's basically the sequel to Undertale. And another RPG.
That game's not done yet, right?
Love.
And all the chapters?
Not all the chapters. Okay. No. There's like, I think it's supposed to be like 7 chapters. We've only played 2. But this one is Jevil isn't even like a main villain. As a matter of fact, you can play the whole game and never even encounter him. You have to do special things to him. He's a secret boss. But gosh, if I did not love again the character of him, because Jevil, he just like what you just said, Jevil is a clown type character, and he's so dangerous. He's locked in this hidden prison dungeon basement of this castle by the king of the Card King or whatever of the game, who's the main villain for that chapter. And it's spooky. You go down there, you just feel the vibes once you do the secrets and you unlock the secret elevator and it takes you down there. It just feels so creepy. Like I feel more scared going into that dungeon than I did at all going up against the main villain of the game, of the chapter. And again, very similar to Flowey, Jevil is like full on insane though. Like Jevil is like, his story is he thinks he put himself in his own prison cell because the rest of the world is crazy and he's the only one who's sane, is what he goes off of. And I won't go into all of his spiel, but everything about this guy, from his music to his boss fight, man, it's probably the hardest boss fight I've ever played. And to do it, oh my gosh, I would die so many times again to do it. It was one of those things where I just constantly, messed up, died over and over and over again. I had to watch YouTube videos of how to do it, and finally figured it out. So it was, honestly, I mean, seriously, it was one of those things where you just get so frustrated to fight him, but he was just a fun villain. I absolutely loved that character. I bought a t-shirt of him. So yeah, I'm all about him. He's fantastic. Jevil is my second pick. Again, he's not as deep as, like I said, Flowey. He doesn't bring out this deepness to him, but I just loved the creepiness of him. And honestly, if I have to say, he's probably my favorite villain out of all like Undertale, Deltarune stuff so far. So I hope once you beat him, you get like a special item. I hope he somehow comes back, because I really like him, and I would love to see him, Toby Fox, to fledge his character out even more. That would be cool.
Yeah, I've not played that game yet. Well, I played the first chapter, and it didn't really click with me. I was too close to Deltarune at the time, like fresh off of Deltarune, and so like I kept expecting there to be these
Undertale.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry, I meant Undertale. And so I just kept expecting all the characters to be like I was looking for all the cameos and the crossovers, and I was wanting it to be Undertale so much that I didn't really. I just kind of went through it really fast, and I need to go back to it when I'm like really just need to experience it as its own thing, because that's what it was meant to be. Kind of like in the Final Fantasy vein of things, like you have characters that have similar names or whatever, like your Cids and people like you have your classic enemies, maybe Cactuar and what have you, but I didn't click with me. So, but yeah, I definitely think that I've seen some pictures and some things with that specific character. I remember you like just having so much trouble talking in the chat about how frustrated that boss is making you, but you were loving every minute of it. And like those ones that are just like insanely hard to beat, and it's really cool.
One of those fights where you're just like, why would anyone ever put themselves through this? Which I have. When I come across those a lot, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this. But it was one of those things where I just loved the character so much, I was determined to figure it out. And it took I'm not kidding, like a very long time. I mean, months, because of how busy life is and coming back. And I remember getting so close so many times, and then I finally did it. Couldn't believe I finally did it. I don't know if I could ever do it again.
Yeah.
But it is that difficult, but I was glad when I did it. So that's my second pick.
Cool. Excellent pick. Circling back to villains needing a hug. So my second pick for top villains on Nintendo Switch is actually the villain from the Side Order expansion for Splatoon 3. The main boss's name is Overlorder, but the actual character themselves' name is Smollusk. And it's basically, the idea is, at the end of Splatoon 2, they did a Splatfest to determine, like, which is better, Chaos or Order, to determine the theme of the next game. And so, like, Chaos won out. And so that was kind of the theme of Splatoon 3. And just in general, like, that was kind of the tone that it took. But they didn't dismiss the idea of the second, the runner-up for that winner of that Splatfest, and with the whole Order side of things. And so the Side Order was just that. It was like the ideas that they had. They didn't make the whole game themed like Order. They had it all chaotic, but then the Side Order was that side how the game kind of would have been or could have been. Had it won the Splatfest. But you go into this virtual world that Marina creates, and you get stuck there. You get trapped there by this villain, and you have to basically just like climb the tower and defeat him, and then only to find out like that's not the end. Like, you get kicked all the way to the bottom, and then the tower grows and becomes this huge tower. You have to keep climbing up and go through these waves and hordes of enemies and do a bunch of tasks and stuff to get all the way to the top to take out this character that represents order. And basically, he wants to control everything and make everything order. And like, why would you? He wants to make basically everyone the same and kind of like homogenize everything into like one type of character. One, like, everything has to be in its place and it's in its order. And why would you do like music, and why would you Splatoon is all about like the music and stuff, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, where you have to follow the rules, you have to do things in a certain order. Like, it's not logical for you to do these other things, and it's not right. And so that's kind of the idea. It's this character that pops up in this AI that takes over, and it actually like mind controls Marina, and that's kind of the first boss that you fight is Marina, mind controlled by this smallest character. But he's just a little tiny dude, little tiny like squid thing, and he just gets all of this power and turns into this huge, like, giant octopus boss for Overlorder. But he's very much a like, yeah, I'm this big bad tough guy, and as you start to go through each time, you play through this tower over and over and over again, in different ways with different weapons and things like that. And as you go along, you learn more about his story, and it's just basically you get to the point where like he wants friends, and like he wants order and stuff, but he also just wants companions, and he's tired of sitting up atop, being this lonely person at the top of the tower of this like this command center, control center, and like eventually it comes down to him just wishing that he was. He's very, very kind of prideful, or very like, oh, I'm still the bad guy, but it's really cool that you're up here. Like, oh, I'm glad to see you again. How about I beat you and how I beat you up again? And you always end up beating him every time. But he's very like, he feigns toughness, but he's really just a squish. And
he sounds like a funny boss.
But yeah, he's tough. He's really tough. But yeah, it's a really, really fun and really, really cool theme that they did. Really great storytelling. Just in general, like the theming of like, I guess the world building, I should say, like the theming with the chaos versus order, and the whole That's sterile cool. white order and everything was really well done.
That is cool. Wow. A game, and Nintendo put some thought into story on a game I don't ever play. Thanks, Nintendo. That does sound cool. I like that. I like that character, and I can understand the balance of wanting control and chaos, and you don't want chaos and you want to control and put everything in a box. Because I'm somebody who's very, I like schedules. I like a routine, and I get when that gets thrown off, it really bothers me. At the same time, I know you can't put everything in a box, and I would hate that, because everyone's opinion of how something should be is vastly different. Like there's somebody I know for a fact there's people out there who would think my taste in music or and how I act or my personality is just not suiting to what they want or what they would find appropriate, and I could do things, and they're like, to them that would be rude and not, I don't know, I guess appropriate, like I've been saying. And whereas like I grow up like that, totally fine to do this. Like there's nothing rude, there's nothing wrong about this. I'm just throwing out examples, but I think that would be a fun character to experience. I like that. That's cool. Good choice. My third and final pick for this. Okay, this character. Really liked this character. This character that's been in the shadows, we didn't even know existed for years. It's a character that needed to be brought to light, and I think it's one of the greatest characters, villains that Nintendo's made in honestly decades. I really do. So yes, I've been ignoring your question. It's Ravenbeak, because
awesome.
It's he's powerful. He gives a story to Samus that we've wanted to see for so long. He really kind of just fills out the character of Samus. And he's like he's the first villain outside of the SAX, which is his own different situations. He's the first villain that just shows up and he just straight up wrecks Samus. He wrecks her. And like, I mean, he could have even killed her. Spoilers in the beginning of Dread. But he didn't because he had a bigger plan that he wanted to manipulate her for. But I mean, the dude is just straight up. He's hard. Once you figure him out, obviously you can figure out his patterns, and he gets better, easier to take down. But he was definitely a menacing villain, and it was cool to see his DNA and him being technically, I guess, the father of who Samus turned into by saving her life way back when. If you know the story of Metroid, I just loved seeing this character, and it's funny if you've played the game. Like he like Samus doesn't even realize, but like her robot that she normally talks to, her AI from her ship, like she had lost that, and she was talking to him the whole time. And like you see all the memes, and because he always just talks about how powerful Ravenbeak is, and you'd be no match for him. You see all these things like little cartoons where like Ravenbeak's just got the biggest muscles. There's no way you could ever beat Ravenbeak. And it was just so funny. But when you fight him, he really brings out the all of the bad buttness we want from Samus, and like that she's always been, and he really pushes her to that new height. I mean, you literally see her just like, because of what's happening to her, she literally, we talk about, I can't have this, I guess the theme for me is insanity, but like Samus kind of goes insane to go Super Saiyan on this dude to beat him, you know?
Yeah.
And he really pushed her to that point unintentionally. He didn't think she could ever beat him, and she does. And we're left at the end of the story of Samus being reborn in a way.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And to new heights. So like I'm very interested, because that's supposed to be the last story of the original Metroid run. All 5 games, 1 through 5. Took them 30, 40 years, whatever, but they did it. And now I'm really curious about what's next. We're going away from that story. Where do we go now? And she's got new heightened powers to where I would argue she's more powerful than she has ever been.
Yeah.
In any point in the Metroid series.
She's also conflicted because, like, she has some innate desires, too. Like, some innate, like, I guess some carnal, like, DNA, even, in her programming to parasite and to feed off of things, and so like it's interesting just to see that kind of that there's definitely like an evil, or not necessarily evil, but a very animalistic nature.
It's kind of like a vampire that wants to be good but doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Feed off of people because they know it's
exactly, wrong. But have that like huge hunger that you can't, like, not to go Twilight or anything like that, but
right.
But yeah,
if you've played the game, you'll understand.
People are gonna burn me at the stake for comparing Metroid Samus to Twilight. But no, that was just came to mind with like,
that is what it's like now. Though you're right.
I want to eat people, but I don't. Oh, it's bad, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the whole next game could be a theme about her not losing herself. You know?
Yeah, and that's I think they've explored that before, but doing it in a different way would be really cool. But Ravenbeak like brought all of that out into Samus, like not to get too much into like the character of Samus. Like, sure, we've seen Samus corrupted by Phazon and all of that stuff, and like having to fight before they anyway. But Ravenbeak's like he's this like he's pushing the pawns the whole way. Like he's toying with Samus the whole way to get Samus to do all these things and make Samus out to be the bad guy. And like he's just sitting back waiting, like, oh yeah, Samus can do this, and make her realize that she's the villain, or that's kind of like the idea, and that like, hey, you are my protege, I'm going to groom you how I want you to be, and it's just crazy.
He's a military commander, right? Yeah. He was the brute force for the Chozos. He wasn't. Most of the Chozos are always known as these scientific characters until we got to this game, and then we learned more about the warrior side of the Chozo, and he was the head of that, and he's all about military, he's all about fighting, he's all about, again, kind of controlling in those ways, and he really unlike my first two choices, he's actually not insane. He's actually really smart, and he's really talented and strong at what he does. So, um, he is a different type of villain, and he's a bad dude.
Yeah,
He does some
totally. Yeah.
very bad things throughout all of his reign as you learn his backstory.
Yeah.
But that's my third and final pick.
Cool. Good pick, man.
Thank you.
So I do have an honorable mention later, but just it's more of a meta honorable mention. But my third villain, and I kind of went back and forth on which villain to pick from this game, but ultimately I settled on the tragic-ish villain. So there's something to be said about a villain who's very vain and believes he's doing the right thing and thinks he's in control of everything, but is really the puppet. And that's from Neo: The World Ends with You. The main villain, that's presented as the main villain, like when you start the game, is Shiba Miyakaze. And Shiba is very like, he dresses really nice. He's got that, like, that business chic. Like he's got like the nicest business vest over kind of like a t-shirt type thing, but he's just got that like businessman, like suave, kind of like rich person you'd see holding like a glass of wine, and he's got this way of talking. He's like, "Greetings, sheeple of Shibuya. Got some red hot news for you." Like the voice acting in the game is superb, but like he's very, he's very smug, very like, I'm right, snooty. I'm the best. He's very snooty. He's like one of those kind of characters. He's just like, yeah, I'm better than, and my way is the best way kind of idea. And eventually you find out like he's, I don't know if I want to get into spoiler territory, but you'll eventually find out like he's on this team of he's kind of the leader and like pushing this whole event for everybody fighting. Like this is kind of like an afterlife. Everybody's fighting to see who gets the right to exist and come back to life. And only to find out like his team that he's picked, he's actually the one that's actually playing the game too. Like for the longest time, like who's the leader? Like who's the leader of this other team that's they're so strong and they're beating everybody, and it ends up being him the whole time. He's running the event and he's also a player in the event, and he's overpowered. He's tipped the scales to where that like they're never gonna lose like under normal circumstances. And so it was just it was a way to inflate numbers and to keep things looking like they're working as far as like the grand scheme of how the world was working. Basically, someone was sent to fix Shibuya because Shibuya in the Afterlife game was not running well. Like there was a big fight in the first game where people were like saying, well, I know what's going on. Like everybody needs to be the same. Everybody needs to be like merged together and like have the same mind. And then the other side was like, no, people, like everything just needs to be destroyed, completely wiped out. Like Shibuya, wipe it off the map, like get rid of everybody, complete apocalypse. And so like after that fallout, like the higher ups that organize these games like come in and we're like, let's send somebody over there to like, basically he's a janitor. Let's send somebody over there and clean it up. Like let's send him over there, like put people in place to just basically make the place wipe itself out, because the person who was going to wipe everything out had some compassion and really listened to the main character Neku and decided, oh yeah, so that's I hear what you're saying. Like he started out, he hated people. Like, he didn't get people, he didn't want to be around people, and so, like, long story short, eventually he, gives a change of heart to this villain, and so the new villains in this series is basically someone has come in and is ordering them to come and destroy Shibuya, basically. Set the game up so that Shibuya is going to lose, like, people are going to get wiped out eventually, like, once all the teams who are fighting are completely erased. and like he's at the head of all of that, and you know, he's kind of like the big bad into the final, and usually in Square Enix game fashion, like you find out there's a deeper, like more Sidious plot going on, but even up to that point, like there's some time shenanigans that go on, and he's still very proud of himself. Shiba is. He's very much like I'm the best, and how dare you, like, you know, challenge my judgment and my authority and my understanding. And so like you have to actually kind of, to get him on your side, like to pull the impossible, to get him to flip to your side and fight the real bad guy. Like you have to appeal to his ego side. And yeah, but you know, you like to be in control, but didn't you know, like this whole time this other guy's been pulling the strings and controlling you like a puppet, and like he's like, oh man, I can't let that happen. I'm going to go and fight this thing. Like let's like, it's like, assuming if this is real, hypothetically, like how would I go and how, you know, what would I do to help fight this, and you know, and eventually he starts to realize like, oh yeah, okay. So these memories, I have these like almost like memories of these things happening, but that's not what I remember now, and that's not where I was. Like a lot of time undoing and time erasing, but over time he starts to believe and join the good guy's side in a way. He's never really a good guy. I mean, he's always a bad guy. He's always like vain and stuck up and everything snooty, but he does come around to help out in the end and rally around to save Shibuya and the world, really.
Nice.
So that's kind of like my idea, but just the general, like the voice acting they did for him, and he's just very, like, you know, just again suave but very snooty, but endearing in a way. He very much just pulls that, like, I've got everything together, I know what I'm doing. Like it's almost, he's kind of a tragic character in that, like, he doesn't realize he's being controlled the whole time.
Yeah,
and he loves being, you know, the center of attention and the star of the show. Like he's the host, he's the game show host, but he's also playing the game, and he's got the advantage because he's, you know, he's the one that sets the rules, and he's also the one that gives himself all the power so that he's not being able to be beat. So there's this constant loop of time where you go back and then you eliminate the next set of team players and stuff like that. And like, it's very much like in their
rigged.
favorite and rigged. Yeah. But he's a really cool character. And you're always like, who's this and who's that and who's the bad guy? And you know, I could have picked the series or the game's main villain. It's kind of layered because even the character that's on your team to start out is the villain from the first game. Is the is the secondary villain from the first game. And so, like, he's actually on your team, so he's kind of like a good guy in a way. I mean, he's an anti-hero, anti-villain. I don't know. he's there for his own means. But you know, he's brought back. But then, like, you have all new characters, and it all has a really cool, unique, woven together story. So
Definitely, it kind of reminds me of Zant from Twilight Princess. I mean, obviously, I think the stories are a bit different, but Zant the whole time you think is the main villain until you get towards the end, and then you find out he's really just a puppet.
Yeah, and so like Zant is more on the Kefka side of like crazy, insane type.
He is crazy. You are right.
And so like that's a good like theming draw though. Like he's under the control and he thinks he's got all the power and he's just this puppet, and that's very much like personality wise no, but Shiba has this that general feeling like you legitimately feel like he's the big bad guy, and for all intents and purposes he is, but.
Or maybe, I guess, a better example would be Loki. Loki from Marvel. Like, Loki was definitely, he was faced as the bad guy of the Avengers, and then at the end of the movie, you find out he really was getting all his source of power from somebody else.
Yeah.
Although, very good pick.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it was really cool. And then, I don't know if you have any honorable mentions or not, but I just wanted to say the real villains of the Switch era are the Switch 2 rumor mongers that are posting all those Switch rumors and you know, all the fake leaks and everything, and like just it's been nonstop since basically the day the Switch came out. So
Yeah.
they're the real villains of the Switch generation.
Any honorable mentions in general, I don't really have any. As I was thinking about things and go through the list of like characters, I didn't do Donkey Kong game because technically that's a Wii U game. I mean, I guess I didn't, and I've done that, and I didn't. I thought about Bowser from Mario Odyssey because those fights were really fun, but at the end of the day, like it's still Bowser. It's the same character, and like we have fought Bowser time and time again, and I really wasn't too impressed with Ganondorf and Calamity Ganon from the Zelda series. There's a multitude of games we could talk about, but when I settled down, when I really thought about it, I thought about who were the characters that really just made a positive impact on me of what I liked about them, and those were the characters that came to mind. So
Awesome.
well, Ryan, would you like to tell everybody where they can find us?
I mean, I guess it could. Yeah, sure. Why not? So you can find us on our social media platforms. You can find us on Facebook at Nintendo NOS, on TikTok at Nintendo_NOS, on X Twitter at Nintendo_NOS. You can also find us on Instagram, Nintendo NOSIN. Shoot us an email at NintendoNostalgiaIN@gmail.com. You can also give us a call on our Nostalgia hotline. Share your memories and show us some love at 317-969-5690. And then if you want to listen to our show on other platforms than the one that you're listening to us now, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music at Nintendo NOSIN, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Pandora Podcasts. That brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time. Later, Preston.
Bye, guys.